Welcome to or welcome back to How to Change the World, a podcast for people leading change in their work, lives, and community. Here we explore everything you need to drive meaningful impact on the local level and equip you with the inspiration and tools you need to make change. I am Catherine Alonzo, and I am so glad that you are here with us today. Today, we're talking about storytelling tools that you can use in your communications, and really with a focus on the trying times that we're in and some of the storytelling tips that you can incorporate into your internal and external communications. Before we dive in, though, I want to take a quick moment to ask for your help. If you find value in our conversations, please consider leaving a rating and review on whatever platform you listen to the podcast at. It really is the best way to help others discover the show and join this growing and fantastic community of changemakers. And if there's one thing that we can all benefit from right now, it is more community. Speaking of reviews, I want to share one we recently received from KDJAZ87. They wrote, "Thoughtful conversations with inspiring people. Something always sparks my imagination. A great resource for those working to make change." Thank you so much. It means the world to us to know that these conversations are sparking your imagination and supporting your work. And thank you for being such an incredible part of our community. Now let's get into today's episode. As we step into 2025, it's impossible to ignore the uncertainty that so many of us are feeling. This new presidential election that we don't want brings significant challenges, raising fears about the threats faced by vulnerable communities. And it is one of our most incredible responsibilities as change makers to be able to effectively communicate with our members, with our clients, with our customers, with our teams, with our communities. Storytelling has always been one of the most powerful tools that we have. Story is how we understand ourselves. It's how we understand our relationship to each other. It's how we understand the world and our role in it. I think that our world is largely what it is today because of story, and that story is one of the most powerful tools for creating the world as we want it to be. It's why I do what I do for a living. It's why I lead Javelina, and it's why at Javelina we love working with our clients to be able to develop their most powerful, effective story so that they can create change in their communities and in the world. And now this is truer than ever before. Storytelling is one of the most powerful tools we have at a time right now. And today I'm going to share 4 types of stories that you can incorporate into your communications this year to help you inspire, educate, and lead with impact. These are 4 kinds of stories that really should always be a part of your communications. But my hope is that something here today that you maybe are not using or haven't used recently, or maybe you haven't used before, that you can communicate to and incorporate to really be able to elevate your storytelling and your communications efforts. Number 1 is to adjust your storytelling and your messaging to the current reality. The first type of storytelling is really about meeting people where they are. And this means telling stories that reflect how people are feeling right now. And a lot of people right now are feeling angry and scared and really fearful for the future for themselves, for their communities, and for the people that they love. It is vital to educate your audience about what is happening, who will be impacted, and how. So, for example, if you're working in climate change, sharing a story about a family experiencing extreme weather and what that means for their future. When people feel seen and understood, they are more open to learning and engaging with your message. Also, make sure to be sharing data. Sharing statistics about what is happening and who is being impacted helps equip people with the information they need to understand the issue and share it with people in their own lives. And so you do want to be confronting the reality that we are facing and incorporating those challenges into your messaging and your storytelling. Number 2, and number 2 goes really hand in hand with number 1, but number 2 is to tell stories about the vision. So I just told you that it is vital that you're telling stories about the current challenges, what is ahead, What do we think we are facing, and how might it impact the people that you serve and our wider communities? And that is really vital. But you cannot do that without doing number two. It's simply not enough to highlight the challenges. We also need to inspire hope. You simply must be telling stories about the world that you are working to create. This one is so, so important. What does success look like when your mission as an organization is realized? How will life be better for people if you achieve your goals? By painting a vivid picture of the future that you're striving for, you'll motivate others to join you in building it. Hope is the currency of the change maker. We cannot afford to let it go. And this year more than ever, we simply must inspire hope in our audiences. But you must balance number one and number two. And this is maybe the hardest part. You can't be tone deaf and only talking about this idyllic future that we are going to create. But you also don't want to be beating people over the head with bad news. You run the risk of alienating people, causing them to disengage completely. Also, there is amazing, life-changing, life-shaping work happening on the local level, and we want people to know that story. So the key is to balance number one, adjusting to the current reality, with number two, telling stories about the vision. And this is very true for your external communication, but it's also something to think about for your internal team. Your team needs to hear from you more than ever about the vision. What is the world that you are working toward? What is the better reality that you are creating for the people that you serve? And so find ways to tell that story in your staff meetings, in your regular communication with one another. Think about how you're creating reminders in your virtual spaces and your physical spaces for this better vision that we're working toward. Remember what I said, hope is the currency for the change maker. And you simply have to be telling stories at the moment that reconnect people to that. So number one and number two are really a sandwich. One, you really have to adjust to the current reality. And two, do not lose sight of the vision you're creating and make sure that you're reminding people of that better world that we're working toward. Before I get on to number three, we are going to take a quick ad break. And then I'm going to tell you one of my very favorite storytelling tips, which I think could kind of transform how your conversation's going at the moment with very little effort. Okay. At Javelina, developing and telling stories that create change is our bread and butter. It's why we get up in the morning, and if you are a nonprofit seeking to create change, we would love to help you do just that. We provide purpose-driven branding and marketing services to help change makers like you tell your story, maximize your impact, and build strong connections with your communities. We know that you have an incredible story to tell, and we want to help you tell it. Head to javelina.co to check out our services and schedule a free consultation today to find out how together we can change the world. So we talked before the ad break about two really important types of stories that you need to be incorporating into your communication. One is confronting the harsh reality that we are facing, policies, decisions, changes that are coming down the line and how they are going to impact the people that you serve. But two, stories about the vision, the world we're creating, the better tomorrow that we're fighting for. And those are fairly ongoing, complex things to incorporate. This next one is really simple. It's a very simple shift that can generate really powerful results for you. And that is to explain the work that you do in really simple, accessible terms. This one is so important for reinvigorating your existing audiences and helping to reach new ones. So the trick is to explain the work that you do as though you are talking to a 5-year-old. So as on your own or with your team, brainstorm, how do we explain what we do to a 5-year-old? So, for example, I have a good friend who runs a counseling practice for people who are traumatically bereaved. And I asked her once, how would you explain your work to a 5-year-old? And she said, I help people with big feelings so that they feel supported. And this is just such a powerful, vivid, beautiful description of the work that she does, and quite different to the way that we explain our work to each other in adult grown-up settings. And the thing that's really beautiful about that is it stands out when you are meeting new people and telling them about your work. Simple language like this makes your mission clear. It makes it relatable. It makes it stand out. So I want to invite you to try this. So first of all, talk with your colleagues, or even just think for yourself, how would I explain my work to a 5-year-old? And the next time that you are meeting somebody new and they ask you what you do for work, instead of saying, I'm the CEO of this organization, or I work in communications at that organization, tell the description that you would tell a 5-year-old. So for example, myself, I'm going to do this challenge too. The next time that I'm at a setting where I'm meeting somebody new and they ask me what I do professionally, I'm going to say, I help organizations tell really fun stories so that they can change the world. And I guess that whoever I say that to is going to be intrigued and they're going to say, what? Tell me more. And the thing that's really powerful about this is it just breaks through the noise. It helps you reconnect with your existing audiences, and it helps grab the attention of new people. And your work right now is so vitally important that you need the attention of new people. So try out developing your description for your 5-year-old and then use it. Use it in your introductions, use it on your website, use it in your outreach, and see what happens. It helps to demystify your work and invites more people to engage. And at the very least, it'll make you and your team smile for a little bit. And that is really important too. And if you have the opportunity to actually test it out on a 5-year-old, I would love to hear how that goes. So number 4 is to tell stories about individual people. You cannot forget the power of individual stories. Yes, we are all focused on creating mass change. That's absolutely what we want. But the stories that tend to stick with people more often than not are about individuals. In the last interview on how to change the world with Veronica Aguilar, we talked about her nonprofit, Young and Empowered Women, which focuses on narrowing the gender gap in leadership positions and tackling pay equity. And we talked about big macro changes that she imagines for her work with young and empowered women, and this big dream and vision that she has that everybody would have the same access to education and opportunity that really inspired her work. But then she also shared a story about one of the participants who had been involved with young and empowered women, who was able to negotiate a raise at work after being involved in the network. And this individual story, really stuck with me that, yes, we're talking about macro systems level change, but that individual person who had the ability to make change in her own life because of Veronica and because of young and empowered women, that is so important. And one of the reasons, if not the reason that is so important, is what I was just telling you about hope being the currency of the change maker. Hope comes from lots of places. But at the moment when things feel so overwhelming, hope more often than not comes from the individual. It comes from small, local level change, person by person. It's easy to think that it's not enough, but you tell that person that negotiated their salary increase and has materially changed their life that it's not enough. You need to focus on those individual stories and tell them to the world and tell them to your team, because those are the changes that help to keep people motivated, keep them on track, and keep them hopeful. So to recap, the 4 storytelling tricks for these really terrifying times that we're in is to 1, adjust to the current reality and meet people where they are. 2, share stories about your vision for a better future. 3, explain your work in simple, accessible, works for a 5-year-old terms. And 4, highlight individual stories of change. These techniques will help you connect with your audience, inspire action, and make an impact in 2025. If you are thinking, how do we even meet this moment and tell people what they need to hear, try one or more of these things. I would love to hear your stories of incorporating these things and what they make possible in your communications. So you can always reach me either in the comments on the platforms that you listen to for this podcast, on our social media channels for Javelina, or email Catherine@javelina.co. I would just love to hear from you what you thought of these ideas, whether you have incorporated them, and maybe you have some own storytelling tricks that you would love to share. I'd love to hear them. Thank you so much for joining me today. If you found this episode helpful, I would so appreciate it if you would share it with your friend or a colleague who might need these storytelling tools as well. Do not forget to subscribe, rate, and review How to Change the World. Your support means absolutely everything. And more importantly, thank you. Thank you for the work that you do. Thank you for showing up day after day after day when things can feel really lost. I know how difficult it is, and I am so, so appreciative for you, for your efforts, for your passion, and everything that you brought into the world. Until next time, keep driving change, and remember, your stories have the power to transform our terrifying times into moments of hope, which will translate into years of progress. Until next time, when I cannot wait to share another story of change, have a great one.